Assalamu alaikum again. So in the previous two videos, we've talked about the introduction of MS Teams and its various features and how it's better than other alternative software. And in the second video after that, I talked about how you can actually initialize your account using your university assigned IDs as teachers, and how you can add your students using their personal email addresses to send them the link to your teams so that they can join your class teams. By team, I mean a group of people that are now going to be part of a particular room or a particular group within MS Teams, where they will be able to interact and talk to each other over video and through chats. That is essentially a class team. And then I explained how the adding of students is much more efficient if you actually send them the link to. So I'll remind you of that again. We actually did that by the three-dotted menu right here and sending them the link, which is this, through email, through their personal emails. And then once they clicked on this link, they were given the chance to actually send a request to the teacher, who is the owner of the class, to actually allow them to be added, which we will be able to add by going into our teams, clicking on the three-dotted menu again, and the manage team button. You will see the pending request section where you will receive requests from those students who have clicked that link and now are desirous of joining your class. Now, since we've already talked about it, the most important aspect of any class is, well, the class itself, the session. So we will now be talking about the session. But before I go on with that, I wanted to show you, since I've already talked about it multiple times, that if you have an older version of Windows, if you don't have Windows 10, don't need to worry. You don't need to use the Microsoft Teams desktop app. You can actually use the web app, and that is this one. So you can see that I'm actually using it on my browser, and I've actually logged in my Microsoft Teams through my browser, and it's exactly the same. This is the browser version, while this is the regular desktop version. It's exactly the same. So the only difference that you'll perhaps feel is that it'll happen in a browser window, and that it'll be a little bit slower than your regular desktop version. But the speed is only with reference to the performance of the interface, the buttons and everything. Otherwise, the communication is quality, and the consistency of the video meeting itself will be absolutely same. Regardless, let's now move on to how we can actually start our classes and actually take our classes in MS Teams. I've refreshed it just for the sake of it, just to make sure that it's actually working fine. There we go. So now, how do you actually create a class, a session, a 3-hour or a 1.5 credit hour session? Now, there are various ways to do that. The best way perhaps is to actually schedule that class. Why? Because obviously this is not going to be a class that is going to happen only once, right? You're going to have a class every week. Maybe it's a 3 credit hour class, maybe it's a 1.5 credit hour class split in two, maybe it's a 3 plus 2 credit hour class for the computer science or engineering teachers. So in all those cases, you would much rather have a scheduled class meeting so that the students are well informed before, in time, to actually take those classes. Another advantage of scheduling a class is that it gets announced and gets added to what is known as your calendar. Now if you notice, my calendar, I load it up, actually has classes mentioned. Now these classes are my classes from previous semesters. So they're already mentioned right there that these classes are going to take place. Now I'm going to set up my newer classes in place of these eventually, but just to demonstrate to you how the scheduling actually works, I'll actually show it up here. Another advantage of scheduling a class as opposed to starting a meeting straight away is to actually have it send you reminders. So if you are perhaps busy in something else, or maybe you have a back-to-back class, then you will receive an update and a notification on your phones if you have set it up with your emails on your phones, or even on the MS Teams interface itself. So you'll actually get a pop-up which says you got another class coming up at this and this time. So this is a very good reminder. Plus, it also helps the students get a reminder in the same way. The students may be taking another class and they may overextend their time there, or they may forget that they have another class, so it will send you a reminder. So scheduling is highly recommended over, say, starting a spontaneous class. But I'll tell you how each of them works. So if I were to go into my class right now, this is my class interface for the demo class that we created in the previous videos. Now you will notice that there is an option that says meet right here. Now when I say meet, Google Teams calls a video conference a meeting, a meet. In our lingo, in the academic lingo, we call it a class session, right? So if you wanted to start a meeting, what you can do is you can actually click on this particular link right now. on the button right now. Now, if I were to click on the meeting button, it will start a spontaneous meeting right now, immediately. I don't want to do that. I want to first teach you how to actually schedule a meeting. So I'll click on this arrow button right beside the meeting. Remember that I'm in the general channel of my class. Whatever class I'm using, I can see the same buttons right here. This is for the desktop app, and if you are using the web browser based app, you will see the same thing. Notice, I will show it to you right here. I'll go to demo class, and you will notice that the meeting button exists even here. Let me refresh this too. Okay, so I got my arrow right here for more options, and it says schedule a meeting. So let us first go to the desktop app and click on this button. Remember, the desktop app and this is the desktop app, and the web browser based app for Microsoft Teams is identical. You don't need to worry. I'm only showing you both simultaneously so that you are clear on the fact that they are exactly the same. It is just a matter of interface, which means how you see it, how you're using it. So don't worry about it. If you're using Windows 7 or 8 or Vista, you will use a web browser, and you can log in by going to teams.microsoft.com and using your ID and password to log in, or you could use the desktop app. So say for instance you're using someone else's computer, using the browser app would be a better idea. Anyways, so once I click on this button right here, which says gives me the options for more options, I can actually click on schedule a meeting. Notice that when I click on schedule a meeting, it shows me this interface. Now it is actually asking me to give it a title, because everyone who will be part of this demo class knows what this course is about. I would rather suggest that instead of calling it with the section or the course's name, which you should add, also mention that this is a regular class as opposed to say a makeup or an extra class. This is to differentiate between a regular and a makeup class, because the same class, once you actually schedule it, will appear in the calendars of not just the teacher, which is us, in our own calendars, but it will also start appearing in the calendars of the students who also have access to their own personal calendars in Microsoft Teams. This calendar is like their own weekly timetable, so they will know that they have a regular class coming up, especially when it shows up in notifications. So since we called it a demo class, let's call it demo class regular. I'll just call it regular class, and I'll perhaps put in the course's name, demo class fall 2020. Now this is how I usually like to write it out. You can have your own system, but I like to either call it regular class, an extra class, or a makeup class. Now this is the name that I've given it. This option, the second one, is optional. You can add required attendees. Now this could be maybe your CRs, maybe you want to make sure that they're definitely there, maybe you want to add in the HOD, maybe you want to add in some other teaching assistant that you have, so you can choose them. So if you don't want to use this, you can always skip this because this is optional. Then comes the point of the date and the time and the schedule for the class. Now let's say right now, if you notice my own computer's time, it says 12:50 p.m. 17th of September. So I've set the date to be 17th of September. Let's say today is the day where your classes start. So it's actually a Thursday. So I'm going to set up a class for 1 p.m. It's already set on default because it rounds it up. So it says 1 p.m. Now do not panic. Of course it can be changed. You can write in whatever time you prefer, but let's say I've kept it at 1 p.m. So let's change this to perhaps 12:55 a.m. because obviously it will p.m. and it will start from 12:55 p.m. and go all the way till 17th of September, same day, till 1:25, or perhaps you can increase it. Let's say we increase it to say 2:30. That would make it about 1 minute 35 1 hour 35 minutes of a class, or I can choose those presets. Now if you don't want to use the presets, if you want to perhaps schedule a class with your own timings, you can do that. So I'll set it up. I'll call it a class from 12:55 p.m. to say 1:15 p.m. Here we go. So I've set it up there. Now it says it calculates the time. It says it's 20 minutes. If I put it at all day, then the time gets removed and it will continue until the 12 midnight. I don't want to do that. Now this option right here does not repeat, which it says is a very important point, because this actually allows you to set your class for the same time. Either does not repeat, which means that it will only happen once, that perhaps this class is just a one-time thing. Now in our case, just for the sake of trying to explain it to you, I will set it as a weekly class, because that is how most of our classes work. But if you want, perhaps it could be every weekday. Maybe you have a class of about 20 minutes from 12:55 to say 1:15 every day. Now since the time is running out anyway, let's change it to 1 so that we can start it once we are ready with all of this. Let's change it to 1 p.m. It will be more convenient that way. So from 1 p.m. to say 1:30, let's set 30 minutes. I've set it up. So it does not repeat. Let's get back to that. So I can either set it does not repeat, which means that this class will only happen today on the 17th of September 2020 from 1 to 1:30 p.m. Or I could say that it happens every weekday. So then it won't just happen on 17th of September 2020. It will happen today. It will happen tomorrow on the 18th of September precisely at 1 p.m. By it happening, I means that it will actually pop up as a notification to join to all the students who are added to this class, as well as to the teacher who is the owner of this class, to actually start their meeting at 1 p.m. Now, I could set it as daily, which means it will include weekends. Notice that the weekday means Monday to Friday. Daily would mean including weekends, which is Saturday and Sunday. Weekly, monthly, yearly, or you could set it as custom. Maybe you have a class occurring every other day. Maybe it's on a Monday and then on a Wednesday and then so on and so forth. That is up to you. So let us first set it as weekly, because in most cases, at least in my case, it actually happens on a weekly basis. I have a 3-hour credit hour class for each of my sections every week. So I have set it up. Notice that it immediately says it occurs every Thursday starting September the 17th, 2020, which means that it will happen on every Thursday henceforth until I stop it. Notice it also, the next option says demo class and then it says general. What does that mean? General here again is the channel. By channel I mean a subgroup within the team. I would highly recommend that you do not create multiple channels, because the idea of a channel is that you could subdivide your class into multiple subgroups or sub teams, so to speak. So each channel would be treated separately. I usually don't use that. I do all my communication within the general channel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, skip it for now. Just ignore this. But just make sure that it says demo class general. I could even choose a specific class and perhaps ask them to actually have the class scheduled in these cases. But since I am doing it for my demo class, I'll be doing it in the general channel. You can add a location here if you wish. But since obviously we do not have a physical location, we don't need to put it up. But you can if you want to. Say for instance, if you're taking a hybrid class where you're actually physically on the campus while you're taking an online class, perhaps you could even set up a location. Otherwise, it is perfectly fine. You could even write a detail for this meeting. Now the reason that I don't usually write a detail is because obviously it's a regular class, and the subject matter that we'll be discussing in each class will be different. So there's no real point of writing your details for the meeting in this case. But if you wish to, perhaps you could write an introductory paragraph, or you could just write a reminder paragraph that this is a class, regular class being conducted for say demo class team for fall 2020. Maybe you could write it up. I usually don't write it, but that's up to you. So this is designed for the details. Now the scheduling assistant can actually help you do the same by actually choosing it based on your calendar times if you want. But I usually don't use that, because when you're scheduling it, you can actually schedule it here much more easily. And once you know your schedules, if for instance you're worried about having conflicted meetings, you can use the scheduling assistant. We'll get to that in another video. But for now, let's keep it simple. This is how you set up a class. Now, as soon as I press send, notice that now it's 12:55 p.m. and I've set my class to be set at 1 p.m. September the 17th, 2020. It will get set up. So let's just press the send button. Now, when I press the send button, a notification will be sent to every participant in the meeting, including myself, that this class has been scheduled to start at 1 p.m. on 17th of September, and it will occur every Thursday henceforth. So I'll send the notification right now. It'll pop up in a second. Look at this. Now as soon as I click the send button, it actually shows up in the general channel. Now this channel is the communication channel, the same English word which means communication channel. So it shows up in the general channel, and everyone who is a participant of this class, of this group on MS Teams, this demo class, will receive this notification. They will receive it in their emails as well. They will receive it on MS Teams, whether they're using a desktop app or they're using the web version. Notice that it's also now being shown on the web version as well. This is the web version in the browser. So going back to the desktop app, so it shows that it is going to be happening in a while. Now if I click on it, I can see the details. This is how you actually schedule a class. And again, I would highly recommend not to use the spontaneous meeting thing, which is the button right here, which is meet now, and instead use this. Only use the meet now when you know that you need to have an emergency meeting, or you know that all your students are already online, and then the minute you click the meet now button and set up your class, they will be able to join. I would highly discourage you from using meet now. Prefer to use schedule a meeting for your regular and extra and makeup classes. That way a notification is sent to them prior to the actual class, which is the right etiquette for doing your classes. Okay, so now that I've set it up, notice that it's 12:57 right now, and after a while, as soon as it strikes 1, it will actually change this button to happening right now, and it will show me a join button. If I am a student, if I am a participant and not the owner of this meeting, by owner I mean I am the one who's starting this class, I am the one who's creating this meeting. So since I'm the owner of this meeting, I'll also see a join button, so will all the students who are part of it. Now there's an interesting fact that I need to mention right here, which is that if you wanted, you could even let your students create meetings, and they can create their own meetings. That's like a discussion within the class. Say, imagine the analogy being that if you're not in the class, if someone else is in the class, if the students are in the class, they are obviously allowed to sit and discuss with each other. That's the equivalent of a meeting. So that's something they can do. So they can create their own meetings. However, obviously, since you're not the teacher, in that case, they will only be able to add people who are also part of their own class only. So you don't need to worry about it. Your classes should be scheduled in this manner, and since you're the owner, you can decide who you can let into these classes and who wouldn't be allowed. So it's about to be one in a while, but before we move on, I need to also show you a very important aspect with respect to the same issue of classes. And now a lot of people complain who've used MS Teams, a lot of people point out that their students are able to either mute each other or are able to remove people from their class meetings or cause other kinds of disturbances. That is because people are not understanding a very basic concept in such software, and that is meeting roles. Now, the meeting roles are actually related to 3 basic aspects in Microsoft Teams. Now, there are 3 different kinds of roles in Microsoft Teams. Let me show you on the browser. I'll actually open it up. I'll open up the specific article for this purpose. MS Teams meeting roles, so that you're able to read the article. Roles in a Teams meeting. This is the article I'm talking about. Now, there are 3 basic roles in any Microsoft Teams meeting. One's the organizer, which is us, who's created the meeting, who is the owner of the team itself. The second is the presenter. The third is the attendee. Notice that the presenter is someone who can speak or share a video, they can participate in a chat, they can share content. But the third one, the attendee, is just someone who's actually in the class and they are only able to listen. Now, a lot of teachers are unable to understand this difference. The organizer obviously is going to be us, but the remaining 2 aspects could be students. There could be presenters and attendees. Now, by default in Microsoft Teams, every student is set as a presenter when they join in, unless and until you actually set up an option to make them as attendees and not a presenter. That will remove their ability to remove other students. Notice that this entire chart actually tells you what each role is capable of. The lowest role is the attendee. They can either speak and share a video, they can participate in chat, or they can view a PowerPoint file that someone has shared. But they cannot mute other participants, they cannot remove other participants, they cannot allow other people to be added. Only a presenter or an organizer can do that. So obviously, reading from this, you understand that the best way is to make sure that all your students are set as attendees before they join the meeting. Now, since it's already 1, let's first look at how we can change the roles and then start the meeting. Notice that there is a 3-dotted menu at the end of the scheduled class that we set up. Click on this to show more options. It says view meeting details. Now, when I click on this, it will show me the same menu that we had earlier to create the schedule for this meeting. However, there is an added option now available called meeting options. This was not present earlier. This only gets presented after you've scheduled your meeting. So click on the meeting options button. Once you click on it, it will open up your web browser and will show you a page that has the detailed options of your Microsoft Teams upcoming meeting. Remember, this option will only be available to you if you are setting up a scheduled meeting and not a ad hoc or a spontaneous one or a meet now option. Now notice that it tells you about when your class is at 1 p.m. It shows my name, who's the owner of the meeting. It shows me meeting options. Now, who can bypass the lobby? The lobby is the waiting area. So people in my organization means anyone who's part of the university, either a student or a faculty member, can bypass the lobby. I can set it to only me, which means that first the students will actually gather up and will wait for me to join in. Or I can say people in my organization, which means the students can join straight away. I usually set it to people in my organization because if I'm in the middle of a class and a student enters late, then I won't be disturbed by them asking for permission to actually enter the class. So I usually set it up as people in my organization. You can set it up as only me, which is an equivalent to students waiting outside your class unless you actually let them in. They are part of your class, but they're not inside the room until you let them. So the lobby is the waiting area before the actual class session area. So I set it up to people in my organization. Now I'll always let callers bypass the lobby. The default option is no. Let it remain as no. Announce when callers leave or join, yes, because I want to know who has joined in and I want to know which student has quit the meeting. This record is kept by Microsoft Teams anyway, and I'll show that in a while through an attendance list system. But if you want to be notified, it'll pop up a notification on your Windows right here once you're actually doing your meetings, so that you know who's coming in and leaving. Now this is the option that I was talking about. Who can present? Make sure that you set this to only me. What this will do is it will turn every other person other than yourself as an attendee. To remind you again, let me show you that chart again. The attendee is a person who is part of your class meeting, who can only speak or share, who can participate in the meeting's chat by typing it out, or who can view a PowerPoint slide privately if somebody shares it with them. They cannot modify your PowerPoint slides that you're sharing right now. They cannot share any content, which means that they can't do what Zoom bombing was, which is people bugging you in the middle of your Zoom meeting. They cannot mute anyone else. They cannot remove anyone else. They cannot delete anyone. They cannot do anything except sit down and listen to you or listen to whoever is the presenter. The presenter is a student or you yourself who is currently talking in the meeting. So you can turn any student to a presenter. This is the analogy is that like in a regular class, when your entire class is sitting in front of you and students are studying, you can actually ask a student to get up, come before the class and start presenting something. Notice that you have just seen here that I've just received a request for joining by a student in my class. This is a request that I've received because if you remember in my previous video, I sent an email to all of my students to join my class, my advanced applications in IT class for fall 2020. I just received a request. So I'll show that to you in a few seconds while we actually start our demo class. So looking at this particular setting, I will now go and set it as only me. Now, whenever I have started a meeting, a video meeting, which means a class, only I can delete, mute, remove a participant. The participants, the students can't do that to each other at all unless and until I make them a presenter and give them that power. So remember, there are three basic roles. You are the organizer of a meeting. The students can either be presenters or attendees. If I set it up, I can set up every student to be an attendee unless I turn them into a presenter, and I can turn them back into an attendee. In other words, once a student has presented in front of a class, you can ask them to sit down on their chairs again. They become an attendee, and now they will either listen to you or listen to some other student. So always make sure that you do this. This particular article is called the roles in a Teams meeting. So you can actually read it up to understand the various options, and you can see how you can actually go and change this. You can notice the entire process is written right here, and it details everything that I've just talked about. I'll share the link in the description for this video to make it more convenient for you people to actually read this up. Now, going back to this, now that I've actually set it up as only me, I need to press the save button. So I press the save button and it saves this as an option, as a detail within my scheduled meeting. So only I will be the presenter, organizer in that meeting. The rest will be attendees. So I'll close this. Notice that it is already 1 p.m. right now, and I will now need to click on this for it to start. So I'll click on it and it says join, right? Because the meetings are actually starting, the time's up. It's 1:06 right now. So I click on the join button and it actually takes me to this particular window. Now this is the window right before the class actually starting. Now I can set up my mic, I can set up my camera, I can switch on my audio, I can either make my audio off. So this happens because if there is some other mic or some other speaker in the room and you don't want to use your computer speaker or mic, you could perhaps use the other one. So you can click off your audio. You could switch to phone audio. You can add a room, and adding a room is your meeting is to use the sound and video system within the room. So your own device will connect without audio to prevent any kind of echo. So maybe you are actually connecting to another audio system. You can use that. This is an advanced option. You don't need to worry if you're taking a class. the default settings are usually fine. Now sometimes, in some cases, people tend to have multiple mics in their computers. What I mean by that is, laptops generally have their own internal mics, and a lot of people use their headphones or hands-frees and connect them to their laptops to use that mic. So make sure you've chosen the right device for the input of your voice, which is through the microphone, and the output of the speakers. The speakers could either be the laptop speakers or the desktop speakers. They could be your headphones. So if you have multiple devices connected to your computer, make sure you've chosen the right one for the right purpose. So click on this settings button, and it will tell you what audio devices you have connected right now. So in my case, I have my high definition audio device, which is my laptop speakers, audio devices selected, and I have my speakers as my laptop speakers selected, and I have my microphone from my laptop as well. Now if I had plugged in another hands-free or perhaps a headphone with a proper mic, or even if I had a dedicated mic connected, I would actually get the option to choose that mic. In the case of a camera, I actually am using the integrated camera that's already installed within my laptop. Maybe, say for instance, your laptop camera is not working anymore, you have an external webcam installed, make sure that you choose that. You'll probably have more options if in your cases. So now, another piece of advice: if you do not need to use video, if you believe that perhaps your internet is not that consistent, if the quality is not that great, I would recommend switching off the video. But if you believe that your video would work fine, you can always switch it on. I usually keep it switched off because I don't really need my video to show anything important. If I want to share my screen, I can do that, and generally it's a good practice because it helps you have better quality of voice communication. But if you need it, you can always switch it on. So we will do the detailed switching on right now. Let's say if I were to switch on my video right now, so it will give me a test video right here. So I can actually switch on the video and use that. You will also notice that there is a blur background option. This is a new feature that Microsoft Teams has, so that you can actually switch off the background video, which is what I will do right now. I can actually choose from any kind of background. So you will notice that it actually either blurs the background, which is pretty helpful. So if you're taking your classes from home and you do not want other people to be viewed when you're actually teaching your class, you can switch on the blur option, and notice that it's actually blurred my background. Or I could choose any other area. For instance, I could choose perhaps this office setting, which is a virtual picture of an office. Now I'm not in an office, but it actually shows as if I am in the office. Or I could show this white wall right here. Now I'm not here, but it's showing that as an option. So I can choose any number of different background settings. I can choose to be anywhere. For instance, I could choose a fancy fun place. Maybe I am in a valley. There you go. So I can choose any of these. If you wish to use these to protect the privacy of people around you, you can always do that. Or you could keep it as none. Or you could perhaps prefer to do blur. I would recommend that if you're switching on the camera, use blur, or maybe use some other picture to prevent any kind of privacy issues. Now, once I've set that up, or you could even press the add new button and actually add a picture from your own computer as the background. Now, once I've blurred it, the video is being viewed right now. Now this is a preview. The class hasn't actually started yet. This is just being shown to me so that I know that everything's working fine for me. Now if I click on the join now button that you can see on the screen right now, it will actually start the class. So if I click on the join now right now, it shows the connecting, and it says it's using my video because it says it's right now the video isn't working because obviously my video is being used to record this particular session. So I say fine, no need to worry, I don't need the video anyways. So now it says waiting for others to join. This is because the class has actually started. Notice that Microsoft Teams is running in the background right here. I am in this class right now, notice. But for the students, they'll be seeing this because the time has already started. They're seeing this right now. If they were already part of this class, Microsoft Teams class, they will be seeing this option right now. It will be showing the time since the class started, and they will see a join button right here to click to start the class. Now in my case, since I'm already in the class, I see this particular window. Now within this window, I actually am getting the message of others to join because there's nobody here in the class, only me. Now let us look at the different parts of this interface. You could put it in full screen. Notice that I have the option to show my participants. Let's click on that. This gives me a list of all the participants or people in the meeting right now. The second option is the show conversations. This is the place where I can type out and actually talk to my students if I want to do it in text. The third option is raise your hand. In a meeting, oftentimes if you want to speak something, you want to raise your hand. This is equivalent to raising a hand in a class, similar to the feature in Zoom and other alternate softwares. The third is more actions. So I can look at different actions while I'm taking a class. You can notice the most interesting option right here, which is start recording, that can also be used. Now, there's another option called turn on live captions, and this is a very cool feature that I'll talk about in another video. Now, if I wanted to actually look at the participants, I can look at the list right here. This is another place where you can use something, two very important options. One is to actually, if you've forgotten to set up your meeting settings, if you have forgotten to set all of your participants as attendees, you can do it here, right here. You can click on the three-dot menu and click on manage permissions. When I click on it, it will take me to the same page again. Let me close the previous one. It will take me to the same meeting options, and I can send up who can present right here. So if you've forgotten to do that, you can do it here, save it again, and it will change the roles of all of your participants. You could also, if you noticed, there is another option right here, which is download attendance list. So you could actually download the entire attendance list of all the people who have joined, left, or are still in the meeting right now. Now, if I were to click on the download attendance list, notice that a file is currently downloaded. It's being downloaded right now. If I click on it, I can actually open it up. Let me show that to you. I think it's going to be in the download section. There we go. So meeting attendance list. This is for right now. I'm guessing this is the one. Yes, this is the one. Let's open it up. It's going to be an Excel file, more specifically as an Excel CSV workbook. Look. So it's actually telling me when a particular person joined in. So this is the timestamp on which they joined in. So notice it says the full name of the person. In your cases, if the students are added, and if you're a Bahria University teacher, you will get the enrollment numbers. The action that they take was joining right here. Since I join at this time, whenever I leave, the timestamp would actually show. The timestamp means the time, the date and the time at which I joined that class. So I joined it at 1:11 when the time was actually 1 p.m. But I joined it at 1:11 because we were discussing the meeting details. Anyway, so this is pretty helpful, unlike say perhaps Zoom, where you have to keep track of every student yourself. There is no evidence, while Microsoft Teams actually allows you not only to have evidence, but to have documented evidence of every student's coming and leaving at a particular timestamp. Now, going back to our Teams session, we were looking at other options. Now, you will notice that I have several options available to me. I can switch on the video, which I said obviously cannot be accessible right now because this meeting, this particular video is being created, so I cannot use the video while actually making the recording. But I am be able to use my mic. So if there were other participants, they would have been listening to me right now. I can also share my screen from this particular button, which is the share content button. Now, if I click on the share content or use the shortcut key Control-Shift-E, I can share any content from my computer and show it to people. So I can share my screen from this. I can share any content, say perhaps uploading a video or uploading a Microsoft PowerPoint slide or a Word file, whatever I wish. So these are some of the options through which I can take my classes and conduct that. So let's click on the share content button right now. As soon as I click on share content, it shows me all the open windows that are available right now. It shows the first screen, which is my desktop. It shows the current screen that is actually being shown. I can either share that screen. It can also allow me to share other applications that are open right now. For instance, I had the Excel file opened up, so I can actually show them that Excel file right now. So if I click on this, notice that it now shows a red border around this particular window, which means that this is the window that the students will be able to see. This is them being able to see this screen being shared with them. So whatever I'm going to do on Excel is going to be visible to them. Now, if I wanted, I could cancel the sharing or I could continue sharing. You can always minimize this to make it easy for yourself. Now, whatever I do on the screen can be shown to the students. Similarly, I could have shared my browser window, and that is actually pretty convenient because if I share my browser window, first I will need to cancel the share, current share. Let me cancel it. I will go again to the sharing option, and this time I will choose my web browser window. So let me scroll down. That's the web browser window. So if I share my web browser window, I can now share my Google Chrome window to my students. So if, for instance, I wanted to show them a particular page, a web page, I could do that right here. I could perhaps show them some YouTube video through this. I could perhaps show them a particular case study or an article that I wanted to show them about. So this is extremely useful in that way. For instance, I often have to teach people various things about Google Ads in my digital marketing course. So I can always take them to my page for Google Academy for Ads and actually show them that. So I can right now show this screen to all my students. If, say, for instance, I wanted to show them a YouTube video, I could obviously take them to a YouTube video and show them that. For instance, if you were to search for Microsoft Teams YouTube, it will actually show me a video how to use Microsoft Teams by Microsoft themselves. It's a tutorial video right here. So that can be shown to anyone if, say, for instance, they want it. Now, you will notice that the video actually starts. Right? So let me pause that video. Now, the interesting part is that when people are sharing videos, they tend to go have a little bit of a problem. The problem is when they're sharing that video, it often doesn't translate the sound of this video to the students. And that's because they haven't allowed that. You will need to choose include system audio, this button. And how did I access it again? Let me show it to you. I just take my cursor to the top of the screen. It shows me this. It says presenting because I'm the one presenting. And there's an option right beside it called include system audio. Once I switch it on, my students will be able to listen to hear what I'm hearing right now on the YouTube video. Now when I play it, I'm not the only one hearing this video, but they will also be hearing the sound of this particular video. So this is extremely important because whenever we are actually showing them YouTube videos, students tend to complain that they're unable to hear the video. This is the right way. This is the correct way. So if I click on stop presenting, it will stop sharing the screen. So I click on stop presenting, the screen share cancels itself. Now, while you're sharing any kind of content with your students, there are two basic options to share that content. If I click on the share content button, you will notice that it shows different windows that are open right now, and it also says PowerPoint and no files available. Now, if I wanted, I could share a PowerPoint slide in this way. Let me show it to you. First, let me start PowerPoint. Assume that I'm actually opening up a new PowerPoint slide. Let's say I've switched on PowerPoint. Let's create a blank PowerPoint slide right here. So let's say I've got these slides ready with me. Let's say I've got some demo class intro. Let's say I made these slides. Let's just call it introduction. Okay, there we go. So I have these slides opened up. This is a file that I have on my computer that I've opened up. This is, in my opinion, the correct way of sharing Microsoft PowerPoint slides on Teams. There's another way, and I'll tell you about that too. So for instance, if I wanted to share this, I should have it open already. Go to my actual current class session. Click on the share content button. And notice now it shows me my slides right here in the window. So if I click on it, the window gets shared with the same red border. So now all I have to do is minimize this because this will be visible to the students, and now I'll be able to share the slides in such a manner. I could even run a slideshow and it'll still be, because you can notice the red border, it will still be shown to the students. So this is the right way. Why? Because in this manner, I don't need to upload these slides into the current session. That's the second option. And in this way, students will not be able to change the slides unless I do it, because the file is being shared by me on my computer. The file actually belongs on my computer, not on theirs, not on our collective systems, not in the MS Teams session. It actually is on my computer and I'm sharing my screen. So if you don't want them changing the slides, if you don't want them going to other slides on their own, you should use this method. The second method, and this is also another method that can be used. Let me first cancel the sharing. There we go. The second method is to upload this slide into the current session so that students have the liberty to go to the other slides themselves. In other words, you will not just be sharing the PowerPoint, you'll be sharing the PowerPoint file with all the students during the session, and then they can actually move to the second, third, fourth, fifth slides on their own without you having to control it only. So, and notice the includes computer sound option is available here too. So you should always switch it on if you want to. If you got the sound in your PowerPoint slides, or if you got the sound in your web browser or any other tool you're using, you need to switch this on if you want them to hear the sound coming out of your system as well. Remember, this is different from you talking. When you talk, the sound goes from your mouth to the mic and then into your student systems. But this is the sound being created by the computer itself and being sent directly. So if I'm running a YouTube video, the sound won't just magically go into your mic and be audible to the students. You need to switch this on so that not just the screen is shared, but the sound is also shared. So you need to switch this on. Anyway, so if I wanted to upload these this PowerPoint slides in such a manner that the students would be allowed to make to actually view next slides on their own, then I can actually upload this from here. So I can click on the browse button. First, I'll need to save this file. Let me save this file. Let me go save it in my, let's say, on my desktop. Let me share it on my desktop. There. So now if I wanted to, I can actually go to browse, upload from my computer or OneDrive. OneDrive is like Google Drive, but this is by Microsoft. So it's an online cloud storage system where you can store your files. I highly recommend using it. And us as faculty members and as university staff, we actually have free access to OneDrive, about a terabyte if I'm not wrong, which is a huge number. Anyways, so upload from my computer. Notice it says upload and not share. So I'm uploading this particular slide right now. So let me click on it. This is the demo class intro slide that I just created, and I am sharing it. Now it's getting uploaded to this class session right now. Notice that the green bar shows the status. There we go. Now it's actually shared with everyone within the class. If there were other people in the class, they would not only be able to see these slides, but they would be able to move the slides backwards and forwards. So I can move it, and they could change the slides too. They would also see the same options. Now when they move to the next slide, it won't show the second slide to everybody, but they themselves alone could view the slides, let's say in the third or fourth. So if you think of it, the analogy for this is like handing out handouts in a meeting. So if you were having a physical meeting, you get these printouts, you give it to everybody attending the meeting, and they can look at whichever page they want to. You can't stop them, right? So this is the analogy for that. So I would recommend not to do this if you don't want your students skipping to some other slide, and if you would prefer that they would stick to the slides that you're showing, perhaps use this method, which is share your already open PowerPoint window. This is the right way. This is the right way that I prefer, because obviously this gives me more control. So this is actually sharing the file as it is available on my computer instead of it being uploaded to the Microsoft Teams meeting right now. Now these are some of the options. Now if I had participants in my class, which I do not right now, I could actually see a list of them right here, and then any of those participants could be muted, could be asked to leave, their status as attendees could be changed to presenters, they could be made into attendees again, that's their roles, or I could send them a private chat message or send them a file or whatever. I'll show that in more detail in the next few videos, but this is essentially the basic structure of a meeting happening. Now if I click on the leave button right now, I will leave the meeting and it will close. But here's the most important part that we might have forgotten about, and that is I could record this entire recording, this particular meeting, this class. Now to do that, once you've started the class, the first thing you need to do is to click on the More Actions button and click on Start Recording. Now your biggest question right now would be, if I record this entire meeting, if I record a class, where does it get saved? It does not get saved on your computer. You don't need to worry about storage space. You don't need to worry about making sure that you don't lose power, because of which the recording might get deleted or might get halfway done. This recording actually gets stored on a platform by Microsoft, which we also have free access to, called Microsoft Stream. Think of Microsoft Stream as Microsoft's equivalent of Google's YouTube, but it is not public, it is private. It is private to only those people belonging to that class, and it is private to only people who are part of the same organization or the same university. So if I click on Start Recording right now, it actually will give me a notification which says that the recording has started and that the recording is being made, and this is a legal record. You notice that it says, let me cancel the screen share first. Okay, so it says you are recording this meeting, be sure to let everyone know that they are being recorded. Now this particular message will be shown to all the participants because this is a legal requirement. So now the recording will be made for this class, and once this class is over, it will automatically start getting uploaded to Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Stream more specifically. So let us see how that is actually done. Okay, so if for instance I go back to my Microsoft Teams main page, you will notice that the meeting class has actually the recording has actually been shown right here. 1 minute 29 seconds is actually right here. So I can play that video recording right now. It's already being recorded. It ended at 25 minutes 59 seconds. Now if I wanted, I could have continued with the recording, which was right here. I could continue with the recording again. If I go to start recording, it will make a new recording now. So the recording would start. Now say for instance, if I were to actually stop up my meeting right here, this new recording would also get created and would get stored. Say for instance, if I were to go and say stop recording right now, the meeting is being recorded. So if I were to say stop recording, you will notice that it actually tells me right here that the recording has stopped. You can find the link to the recording in the meeting chat history. So right here it will actually say that the meeting has been stopped, the recording has been stopped, and it will be the recording would be saved to Microsoft Stream, which is the Microsoft's platform similar to Google's YouTube, and once that recording is ready, it will actually show up right here. So this can be used to actually allow different meetings to be collected in that manner. Now if I wanted to go and see any kind of meetings, this earlier meeting that was going on for 25 minutes, I can actually be viewed. So if I click on the play video button, it actually opens up in Microsoft Stream and I can actually view it right here. So if there are students, this is very useful for those students who can join in that later, who can say perhaps they missed the class for one reason or another and they want to actually see a recording of what happened in the class. They could actually watch these videos later on. So this is the class recording that I started making. You can notice it right here, the 25 minutes of recording right here. There we go.
Yes, the recording has started and that the recording.
So this is the recording that we made. This is the recording that we made of our particular session. So this recording can actually be saved and can be viewed as many times as we like, and by anyone who's part of that class. So you will notice after a while the recording is now available. So basically, if a student actually joins in later, they can listen to any of these videos. They can watch these videos. They can watch them as many times as we like. If they wanted, you could actually access all of your videos from Microsoft Stream. If you were to click on add a tab and type out, and it will load it up, Microsoft Stream right here, you can actually set up Microsoft Stream as a particular shortcut on your class so that all the students can access the previous recordings from Microsoft Stream's channel that you will have created for your particular team. Even if you do not put in a tab, it will load up in a while. Even if it does not load up as a tab, you could always set it up within the history, the chat history. So notice that the two recordings that we made, I stopped the first one after a minute and I stopped the second one after 33 seconds. These are recorded, these are available. It shows the date and time, and the students can view it at any given time. Now, going back to our class, you will then also notice that there's an option called live captions. Now I said that I'll talk about it in a while. The live caption options is basically a feature that actually shows whatever you're saying on the screen. So that's an extremely useful feature that can be very useful for your students to be able to read whatever you're saying. Now it's not showing up right now. I'm guessing it's a bit of a network connection issue. But what happens is whatever I'm saying actually shows up as subtitles right below the screen right here. So I'll try and see if that can be shown in another video in detail, but that is extremely useful, especially if students are unable to actually hear you properly. So for instance, it's showing up right now. If the students are unable to hear you properly, you can actually talk to them and the captions actually start appearing right below your video or your chat screen, and they'll be able to read it. So this is not showing up as quickly as it should right now because of the network issues, but I will definitely show it up in another video. So this is it for the basic meetings and Microsoft Teams used for taking your classes. And you can actually set up your recordings in the same way. You can set up the meeting options. You can actually set up the live captions so they're able to see it properly. You can notice that it's actually showing up whatever I said, and it's actually done live. This is actually slowing down because of the internet issues, as I said, but this is how Microsoft Teams actually works for taking classes. It's extremely efficient. It's actually much better than all the other alternatives that we have, and I would highly recommend that people actually start switching to Microsoft Teams. So I'll follow up with a video on some detailed features. I'll try and see if I can find some participants or take a class, proper one, to show you how it actually occurs in an actual class. But this is the basics that you need to know. To remind you again, you can look at the list of the participants by clicking on show participants. It will show up the list of all the participants. You can chat with them separately by clicking on this conversation button right here, and you'll be able to see the recordings that have been made, all the discussions that you're making, the students typing them out. You could also click on the raise hand, so it will show up as a hand raise button icon right beside your name, so that if you want to say something in the meeting, you could actually see it have as an icon. So all the students who want to speak up can actually do that. I usually like to allow my students to unmute themselves and actually talk to me directly, but if you prefer the raising hand option, that is also available here. So the other options that I talked about are meeting details, where you can change the roles. Remember, there are 3 roles: organizers, attendees, and presenters. The presenters can actually mute others, remove others, but the attendees can't do anything other than just listen to whatever is being said. So I would recommend going to meeting details and actually changing that option as I showed earlier. You can also start the recording, which we did twice, and you can stop the recording, and the recording gets automatically saved to Microsoft Stream, where it is accessible by you or any other member of the organization, which is our university, or even the students who are part of that class at any given time. So I already still have the recordings of all of my previous sessions that I took in the last semester, which was spring 2020, available to all the students that are part of that class, and they can still view it as many times as we like. And the storage space is pretty big, so you can actually store them all online. And that is done all automatically. You don't need to do anything. You just need to start your session, your class, and just click on the start recording button. Once that's done, you don't need to worry about it. So it's extremely useful. Another option right here is turn off incoming video. So sometimes if your internet connectivity doesn't allow it and your students have switched on the videos, sometimes you may want to switch it off because you don't have the internet connectivity consistency at that point in time. So you can click on turn off incoming video, and it switches off the videos of all of your students that are appearing right there. So that helps your internet improve quite a bit, and you can still talk to them on audio. You could then set the gallery button. What happens is it actually shows multiple people's incoming videos, or if their icons like a grid. We'll see that in another class meeting where I'll actually be taking a real class, so that it's easier for you to understand. Notice now that the captions are working really fast, and that it is actually very easy to read and understand whatever I'm saying right now. I'm not typing this out. This is actually being created automatically by Microsoft Teams, because I've switched on the live captions button from right here, turn off live captions as it says. I had clicked on it and it's now turned on. So I can actually read whatever is being said. So sometimes if students are unable to hear you properly, always switch to turn on live captions. It's also useful for recordings. However, the caveat here is it only works for English. So if you try any other language, it will not be able to give you live captions as well as it is right now. So that's that. I hope that this video is helpful to better understand how a class can be conducted and how a class can be taken, and that you will be able to conduct your classes properly. And I will definitely follow this video up with an actual live class session, or at least a demo of sorts with a couple of students to show you various other features. But up to this point, this should be more than enough for you to understand. Hope it was helpful. Thank you.